the Sheiko program is a system, a way of developing athletes. It's not a one-time program where you run it and get a certain amount of results. So what's up guys, Justin Morgan here, and this video is going to talk about the Boris Sheiko powerlifting methods and routines. Now, I do want to preface this video by saying that I feel like I have a somewhat unique perspective because I ran Sheiko programs for a long period of time. And primarily I've used the app, the Sheiko app, which was developed by Robert Fredrickson, I think is his name. And he did this with Boris Sheiko. So Boris Sheiko wanted to take his programming and his routines and integrate them into an app that you could purchase. So I think when I purchased the app, I want to say like 4 years ago, it was at that time $12.99, which was a very reasonable purchase. There are people advertising Boris Sheiko programs right now that are like the authentic Boris Sheiko programs. They're exact same things that you'll find in the app. The app is connected to Boris Sheiko's website, where he was actually involved in the creation of the app, and then there is a forum that goes along with the app, and at one point he actually was active on the forum through Translator. So it is like the authentic Boris Sheiko programs. It's probably about the same price, about $12.99 is what I paid. So the biggest thing that I see when people do reviews of Sheiko programs is that they have this argument that either they do really well on it or they do really poorly on it, and it's all based off of whether they increase their total, which at face value that makes sense. In the sport of powerlifting, the sport is based around who has the biggest total, who is the strongest. But one of the things that I think is good to keep in mind is that within Russian society, which I'm most certainly not an expert on Russian society, but what I see in strength in Russian society as far as strength sports go is that they are generally looking for athletes to peak, to progress, and to be competitive at a given age. Maybe that's 20 to 25 if you're a weightlifter. Maybe that's looking further out if you're a power lifter, getting close to 30 and having your competitive years be a much longer period of time. But they're not looking for people to make a ton of progress in a small amount of time. They're looking at long-term goals. And that plays very heavily into what I perceive as being the benefits of Boris Sheiko programming. So I will have some areas towards the end of the video that I feel that some of the Sheiko routines and programs are a little too conservative on, but that is the biggest point that I want to make in this video, is that the success that you might see on Sheiko is irrelevant to whether you add kilos or pounds, whatever you use, to your total over the course of 16 weeks or however long the program is. I'll also discuss in this video my personal experience with Sheiko and how I had to modify it. So I'll begin with that as kind of a story. When I started Sheiko, I was getting very good results. I was making a lot of progress on the medium load. When you go into the app, you'll see that you might get separated. You'll put in your body weight and your total, your squat, bench press, and deadlift, and then it will put you automatically into a program. Now that program might be a beginner program, it might be an intermediate program, or it might be an advanced program. And within the intermediate and the advanced, there are small load, medium load, and large load. Most people who have, a vaguely decent total will get separated into the medium load, the advanced medium load total. That's where I initially started out, and I found great success on that. It's 4 days per week. The workouts are very long. It was 2 to 2.5 hours usually. Ideally, you will have come up through the program. So if you start with Sheiko, your very first year of lifting, you're at the beginner stage, and you go through each one of those, you probably don't need to take 2.5 hours to do the workouts. You'll probably get them done in a much shorter amount of time because you'll be more conditioned to do the workouts. But if you're like me and you come from other programs, you didn't start lifting until you were 30 or 31 in my case, you might be in a very different perspective on how difficult the programs are to get through and how long it takes. When I began doing that, I, as I mentioned, was getting good results, but then I ended up going to college full-time and working full-time, and I have a family, so I had a lot of stressors and lifestyle factors that made it very difficult for me to maintain that medium load program that I had been running and getting good results on. So I would, think this isn't good, I'm not really progressing, I need to do something easier, I need to find ways to manage the volume, I need to do all these different things. And what ended up happening though was that I just didn't progress. I ended up getting weaker. I struggled to keep up with the program. What would have been an ideal situation for me to do would have been to drop to one of the small load programs. But like many of you, my perception was that I had to keep up with this medium load. I've worked hard to get up to this. I've gotten conditioned to this amount of work. I need to keep doing this in order to keep progressing. But that was not a good idea. If I had just switched to the small load and done less total volume, had shorter workouts in the week, I probably would have progressed much better than if I tried to maintain the medium load program that I was doing, because I wasn't getting results with that either. So the biggest thing that I want to leave you, so that was my perspective. If you have a lot of lifestyle stressors and other factors going in, you could still follow the Sheiko programs, but you might need to look to one of the small load programs, or you might need to drop back to one of the 3-day per week programs. The idea is that you continue to get results, either on increasing your ability to do work and perform, or your ability to actually increase your total. So both of those are factors that I think go into Sheiko that may not necessarily be looked at in other programs where you have, like, say, a 12 or a 16-week period where you do the program, and then at the end of it you're supposed to peak and add so much percentage or whatever to your total. Sheiko has other factors that play into the program than just increasing your total. One of the factors, as I've already mentioned, is that you increase your capacity to do work. And I think that is where a lot of people dislike Sheiko, or they run the program and they find that, whatever program they're doing, they find that, this didn't work for me, I didn't like this. It probably worked, it just didn't work in the way that you perceived getting a benefit from. So if you finish the program and you're able to do a much greater amount of work and benefit from that, then you're probably going to be at a stage where you're able to see much better long-term results. If you are only able to do a very small amount of work before your recoverable volume exceeds what your capacity is, then you're probably not going to be able to continue to get results for numerous years. Whereas if you are able to do a very large amount of work before you reach your maximum recoverable volume, then you're probably going to be able to continue to add kilos or add pounds to your total over a long period of time. And I think that's where one of the jewels, one of the best parts about Sheiko lies, is that it works on increasing that work capacity. So if you are used to kind of a very small volume of work over the course of a week, then looking to do one of the large load programs, whether it be one of the intermediate 3-day per week programs or one of the advanced large load programs, either way, the large load programs are probably going to be too much work for you. You probably need to either stick with either the small load or the medium load at most, and then probably go back and forth between the two. And then in that way you can adapt to higher levels of volume. So I would probably tell most people to start off with the small load programs and work on actually integrating into the Sheiko program. So to conclude, the Sheiko program is a system, a way of developing athletes. It's not a one-time program where you run it and get a certain amount of results. So One thing I wanted to add in as I conclude the video is that one idea that you can integrate into the Sheiko app is doing AMRAP sets at the end of each block where you kind of go for higher intensity. So AMRAP meaning as many reps as possible, and most of the work that Sheiko has you doing is right around the 80% mark. So doing as many reps as possible on your last set, either once or twice per block, can, in my opinion, be of some benefit. And that way you can also, in between the blocks, take deload weeks. Sheiko does actually integrate lower volume weeks into the program, but if you need additional fatigue management strategies, that's something else you can do, where you kind of do an unloading week, or you kind of do a similar progress that you're doing in the app, but reduce the number of sets to only 1 or 2 instead of when he might have you doing 5 or 6 or even more than that. So that's it. You guys take it easy. Hope you enjoyed the review. I do recommend Sheiko. I do think that the app is very useful, especially if you're a power lifter. That's it. I'll talk to you guys in that next video. Remember to hit like, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and leave a comment in the comment section below stating whether you've done Sheiko before, what you're doing in your current program, and how you're liking it. Talk to you guys later.